To this computer. All right. Good morning, everyone. Here, Texas time. It's 9:04. We're a little bit later than normal, but that's okay. Am I sharing my screen now?
I see your picture. That's all I'm seeing.
Okay, let me go over here and fix that. You should be able to see our splash screen and hear me like that. There we go. Now I've got to find us again. So here we go. Welcome again, everyone. It is December the 30th for some of us, and some of us are already experiencing New Year's Eve. So happy New Year's Eve Eve to some of you guys, and happy New Year's Eve to others. So again, welcome to our first Town Hall 2025. We're going to try to respect your time as much as possible, but welcome to you. Seriously, seriously, thank you for taking time out to be here. We know your time matters. We don't take that lightly. So, from the very, very start, this isn't a webinar as we would think of a normal webinar. It's not even one of our class or live sessions. And it's definitely not going to be a sales pitch. That's the thing that we're hearing a lot. Nobody wants to be sold to because we're constantly being sold to. It's just know that this today is going to be a working conversation, mainly between Al and I, but we want you guys to get interacting as well. Put your questions in the chat box, things like that we can pull off and answer questions. So it's going to be a very much conversational piece. But we want to take an honest look at what we're doing, what we've done for 2025, and move that to 2026 and see what we can do and how that looks for 2026. So before we jump in, we've got some newbies I'm noticing in the YouTube channel as well as even in our own Zoom room that I don't recognize names. So let me quickly introduce myself. I've been trading over a decade now as far as currency and stock trading. That's not the only trading and investing I've done, but as far as a community and trading, that's what I've been doing over a decade. I've been blessed to not have a losing year in my swing trading for 8 to 9 years. This year was around 31%. Not great, not my best year, but still profitable. Outside of trading, I'm also a fourth grade math teacher, so I'm not a full-time trader, mainly by choice. I still enjoy teaching kids. So I also used to be a contemporary Christian music artist, toured for 20 years all over the world. So I did that for a while. And then before that, I was actually a licensed certified financial advisor for a company out of Kansas. So I have been kind of everywhere. And I'm currently even going through a program of working as a coach with the Dave Ramsey organization. Some of y'all might be familiar with. So I live a life of intersection of numbers, people, and behavior. So that's probably why it explains why I care so much about Traide Masters, the discipline of it, and our charts. And Al, you want to take a moment to just kind of talk about yourself a little bit?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I've been trading full time for well over a decade, probably close to 2 decades
Oh,
now.
you were doing it on parchment paper, man.
Yeah, pretty much. I came from an aviation background. I was an airline pilot for 22 years for a major international airline, and which means that through that, I'm wired for checklists. I have risk management and not doing stupid things when things get emotionally or unexpected. So now that I'm a recovering pilot, I decided to trade instead, which drew me to this with Brian. And it isn't because of the hype, because we don't have types. We're not calling tops and bottoms. It's about building something that's sustainable over a long period of time.
And we've talked about that a lot. So that's us, not as expert, but as practitioners, just like you guys who've made mistakes. We've learned a ton, but we do care deeply about doing things the right way. And I just want to say this clear tonight isn't about us, at least especially as individuals. It's really about all of us, and especially you, making sure you guys have what you need to move forward in 2026. Because most traders don't struggle because they lack tools or intelligence. They struggle because they lack three things: clarity, structure, and consistency. And we're going to talk about those. But by the time we're done today together, our hope is that you walk away. Al, if you'll keep an eye also on new members coming in, trying to get in, because I can't see that.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay.
My apologies.
Thank
Just
you.
make sure we're clear that you guys are smart enough. It's not that, but we want you to walk away having an understanding of what's actually been holding you back. I think that's the biggest key, having a simple framework that you can use and at least take one step, concrete step forward that you're willing to do in 2026 that you've never done before. And then knowing and having the confidence that you know that we're here to help if you need it. So we have options for you. So with that, let's go ahead and get into it. We've got some visuals for you. And always feel free to take screenshots. Always feel free to put a question. If I happen to move too quickly, put it in the chat box. Al's watching that. I have it on my screen as well. So I'm trying to keep an eye on that as well as my bullet points that I have in front of me so I don't miss anything. We spent a lot of time making sure that this is as clear for you as possible. So just so you know, we really want to know why we're here today. And I've already kind of mentioned it that we're not going to be a webinar and it's not going to be a sales pitch. And this is truly wanting to be a collaboration. We want to hear from you what you struggled with, what you're not struggling with. And we want to make sure that everyone walks away, including ourselves, with some sort of plan to move forward in 2026 because we have a bunch of people who are still kicking tires or just hesitating, sitting on a fence, waiting for something to happen, nirvana or whatever. And we want to have at least a step forward somehow. So as we're moving forward, there's four things, and feel free to write any of these down. Feel free to take a screenshot if that's easier for you. We're going to pause. If I'm going too quick and you need me to go back, please let me know and I'll do that. So here's the four bullet points that I believe that the reason why you signed up to be here today, and the reason Al and I wanted to put this town hall together. So, number one, we're here because most traders don't have the space to slow down and think clearly. We are 24/7, go, go, go. And Al will get on my case. He talks about it all the time, how I'm up at crazy hours of the morning to trade, and I go all day long, and I work at night, and I never sleep. That's not good for me, by the way. It's not good for anybody. But we have a very limited time to actually stop and think. So that's one reason you're here. You want some clarity there. Another reason that I believe that most of us are in this room is because we are reacting to our market instead of truly executing a plan. We'll dive into that a little bit more later on, but that hopefully that makes sense that we're reacting more than actually executing. That believes in confidence and consistency. So, a third reason I believe we're here because most traders try very, very hard, but they don't realize they don't have a framework that actually supports them. And that's a dangerous place. And that support system could be a community, that could be a trading plan. It could be having enough funds to actually trade. It's all sorts of things. So it's not just, hey, Trade Masters is the framework. That's not what we're talking about. And we'll dive into that a little bit too. And then lastly, our point four, why here most traders work very hard, as I mentioned, but we're here because we believe deeply that trading should be done when we feel calmer and where things are turning loud right now. So our world is upside down. So we believe it, but we're not acting on it and we're treating it and we're not feeling calmer in our trading. We're feeling more anxiety in it. We feel more fear in it, or we're completely unchained and just going for a high. So before we go any further, we're going to do this from time to time in our presentation. I made a note to ask you a question right now, and I want you to intentionally think about this. And I would love to have it in our chat box if you want to share. But I'm going to ask a couple questions. I would love to hear your response, but I really want you to take notes today, and I want you to answer these questions so you can reflect back on them. When you think of 2025 and your past trading, everyone has this, but what pattern do you continually repeat that you know without a doubt isn't serving you properly? What one thing that you know you keep repeating over and over again that isn't serving you properly? So let me kind of give you an idea. I know what Al's going to say. Al, you want to share what you're going to say? Because it's going to be over trading.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
overtrading. That's it. Overtrading, and I'm not afraid to take the trades, but sometimes I overtrade. Sometimes I let my stops go too long, and those are things that one thing that this community does that helps me stay true to my plan and my
yeah.
structure, as well as me to help other people to stay true to theirs.
Yeah, and for me, and anybody who's been around me long enough, will know that my issue, especially when I get into the Hawkeye session, especially when I get into Hawkeye, I'm very patient with my swing trading. But when I get in the Hawkeye session, I enter too quickly. I'm ready to go. And sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. It's good if I have a plan that tells me to do that. Some individuals, and I'm not seeing anybody respond yet quite in the chat room. Maybe it's entering too quickly. Maybe it's holding your trade too long. You do that continually. Maybe it's not cutting your losses, another way of saying it. Um, Here's one. Maybe it's jumping into system from system to system to system and never letting them work through a season of time to prove if the system actually works. Because the market's changing all the time, systems have to change as well. So jumping from indicator to indicator to indicator, system to system. Al mentioned overtrading. I'm trying to think of one more. Here's one. Maybe it's freezing up, afraid to take trades at all because there is no clarity in your eyes. You see nothing that's clear. And we're going to talk about that. So if you have something that you struggle with, one pattern, love to hear it in the chat box. Write it down on a piece of paper. You need to know what that is, because that's maybe the one thing that's keeping you from being successful in your trade. It may be the one thing. There may be other things, but we're going to talk about that too. But here's what I want you to really write down. If you know that one thing or multiple things that falls into, what's the one thing that you're willing to change, but you haven't? What's the one thing you're telling yourself you're going to change, but you haven't? That could be trading. That could have nothing to do with trading. But what is there in 2025 that you keep telling yourself you want to change? Mine is right now, I'm eating too much sweets, so it makes me not feel very well. And so I am going to stop doing that. It's not a resolution, but I'm going to quickly change that. And today we want to provide you with just a little bit of hope. We see it all the time when traders come and go a lot. Most traders that come in to us and are introduced to us are because they're struggling. Um, and that's a scary place to be. So we're very, very aware, but we also are very, very grateful because, again, we fall back on our faith because the best way to say it is God's been kind to us. We've been blessed. We've been allowed to learn. We've been allowed to grow. And the most important part, I think, for us is through that faith, we've been allowed to fail. And I fail forward instead of falling backwards. We fail forward. And we've always felt supported in that. So, one of the guiding principles that I like to use, it comes out of Proverbs. And whether you're a Bible believer or not, Proverbs are great stuff anyway. Um, but it says this basically: wisdom is not about knowing more, it's about what are you going to do with that knowledge and living differently because of that knowledge and wisdom. So remember, in trading, it's not about accumulation. It really isn't. You think it is, but it's not. It's actually about application. So today is not giving you more input. We don't want to provide more input. I think you've got plenty of that. It's about having better alignment. And we're going to define what that better alignment looks like because we want to provide you with a purpose. Our hope again is not that you walk away with this awe-inspired 24 hours of hype and dopamine. You're so excited. Let's go get the world in 2026 with trading. We want something deeper, we want something longer lasting. We want you to walk away with one clear shift. And I need you to talk to yourself right now and say, okay, I'm here for a reason. I'm in this session for a reason. I want to know what my one clear shift is going to be. I want to know what my new rule is going to be. I need to know what my new boundary might be. I need to know what my new rhythm will be or routine will be. I need to know a decision that I'm not going to do the same thing again this year as I did last year and hope for different outcomes. Because Alice taught us when you hope for something doing the same thing, what's it called?
The definition of insanity.
Definition of an insanity. I've never remember what it's called, but that's what it is. So I am not going to do the same thing again this year and hope for a different outcome. And that's why we're really here. It's not to impress you. It's not to sell you on what we've got. It's not, it's really honestly to serve one another and serve you personally. So as we move forward, I want to get into the meat of what our session is. And it's really these three pillars. And I would tell you, take a screenshot of this. Al, can you still see the three pillars?
I still do. Yep.
I want to make sure that that's not in their way because I'm moving that over. There we go.
I
Yeah,
can see it
maybe.
okay.
There we go. I had a little glitch there, didn't know it was there. So again, these are the three pillars. And I'm going to say, like Al and I have talked about, you have a stool with three legs on them and you want to sit down. You hope one of the legs is not weak. Because if the leg is weak and you eat as much sugar as I have over the last month, I'm going to break that chair and it's going to come crumbling down and it's going to hurt me. And so as we look into our three pillars, This is what we this is where we hoped the questions come from. And we will address each one of these. So let's talk about the framework that everything today sits inside of. It's everything we do as a trader sits inside of these things too. It's very simple. It's not flashy. It's not going to impress anybody on social media if you take a screenshot of that and say, this is what I learned. They're not going to understand. But I will tell you this, it works. So let's talk about clarity first and get a definition of what that means. Again, clarity is really seeing reality honestly. It's about seeing the market honestly. It's about knowing yourself honestly. It's not what you hope the market will do, because we always, well, I hope it does. We do that even in our own trading, but we have to have clarity inside of that. It's not someone posting social media posts telling you how much they've won and how much they're earning and telling you what the market's going to do. That's not clarity. That's just noise. But clarity is actually, what is it doing? What are you actually doing? And what is the market actually doing? Having that clarity changes everything. It can't stand alone by itself, but it does make a very, very important three part of the pillars that we have. So each week, to help with a little bit of clarity, just a portion of clarity, I create a Sentinel report that goes out to our members that tells them about the macroeconomics of what's coming in the currency market. It doesn't predict what the market's going to do. It's going to give a little bit of clarity. It's not noise, it's clarity. And so I want to give a true data-driven clarity when I produce that report for you guys. So just as important is to having data-driven stuff is, what are you actually doing in your trading? That's clarity too. And that's a big piece of the problem. So clarity is the moment where you stop telling yourself all the stories and all the hopes, and it actually start telling yourself the truth about what you're doing. Okay. And for some, that truth is we kind of already hit it, and knowing the clarity of it. Some of it's for me, clarity is I know myself. I'm an aggressive trader. That's truth. I'm also I have a tendency of jumping into a trade. That's me. That's my clarity. So I have to be very careful. I have to have a plan, a structure, and an execution that will pull that emotion away from me. Yours may be I chase. I chase trades. I hesitate. I change systems too often. I overtrade like Al does because he's bored. I hang on to losers. We talked about those things. Those are the pieces of the puzzle in your trading that clarity needs to be defined, and you have to know about yourself. So write this down. Clarity isn't just judgment. It's truly honesty. Judgment's different. Clarity is honesty. And here's the last part of what I want you to write down. Nothing changes in our life, whether it be trading or related to trading, but nothing changes in our life without clarity. You can't do any of the other two things in the pillars unless you have clarity. Okay. So again, clarity isn't judgment, clarity is honesty. And then nothing changes without it. Okay. And that bleeds over into our next pillar, which is structure. So once you have that clarity, structure means you don't rely on motivation. You don't rely on your mood. You don't rely on your memory. And let me give you some examples. You don't wake up and ask yourself, well, what do I feel like trading today? You already know. You know when you should be trading. You know what you should be trading. You know what to risk when you trade. And you know when you're supposed to stop trading. Those are having clear structure. Most traders have parts of clarity, have parts of structure, and they don't realize that they're sitting on a crumbling stool because they have parts of things. So here's the phrase I want you to write down or remember as it relates to structure, because structure is very, very simple. Structure is how you protect yourself from yourself. It is the fence that keeps you from wandering out into trouble when you're tired, when you're emotional, when you've had a bad day, when your family's struggling, when you've ran out of money, and you've got more bills than money left, or the flip opposite, when you're overly excited because you had two wins in a row and you think you've solved the world. Structure allows you to protect yourself from yourself. That's a key point. And then I want to hit the last of the pillars here, and that's the execution because they all, again, they all tie together: clarity, structure, and now execution. Now, this is the part where most people think is their problem, and that's what I would think as well. It's not though. It's usually not the execution. Execution is just simply doing the simple thing when it's boring, doing the simple thing when it's uncomfortable, doing the simple thing when it's not emotionally satisfying. And what you can write down for execution is discipline over the dopamine. And we usually said, I want to remove the emotions out of my trading. I want to become more mechanical. This is the execution part. Execution is discipline, choosing discipline over the dopamine high that you get when you have a winning trade, or even the negative emotion when you have a losing trade. Still emotion. Okay, so execution is discipline over dopamine. And we're going to talk about that a lot too, because I think that chemical thing in our brain causes a lot of problems. And it's basically you making a decision with clarity and structure to choose consistency over that excitement. It's being willing to look average on a good day so you don't blow yourself up on the bad ones emotionally, especially. So the nugget you can write down, there's three things that you can write this down as well. I should have probably put it on the board. But clarity tells you what's real. And then structure tells me what to do with that. And then execution is actually doing it. So most traders don't fail because they don't know what to do. If we've been in any room, even if it's picking a stock, we all know what to do. We fail because we didn't build lives and systems that support what we're doing. We have these crumbling clarity. We have crumbling structure. Execution is relatively easy. So I think that's a big piece. Al, do you want to add to that at all?
Yeah, I think one thing too is to know what your expectations are and be clear about what your expectations are. Do you have a specific goal for the week or for the day? Do you have, because a lot of times one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with, and myself included, is I'll cut my winners short and let my losers run. And that's when you say you just don't let your stops take you out, or you say, well, I'm just going to pull back, or and so often you'll see that comes back and just takes your stop and say, oh, I was in the right direction, but they took my stop. So you have to know when is things changing or when is so know what your goals are, stick with those goals, and if you get your profit for the day and it runs up for another 10%, so be it. You still got your profit. You're still disciplined with the
Yeah,
fact that you took the trade where you wanted to.
I agree. And a key point is clarity, structure, and execution. We don't talk like that normally, but if you really want to break down trading, it's these three things. And these three things can also be broken apart into deeper thought too, but we don't have time today to go deeper. We may need to do some deeper dives into these things as we move on. But again, today is our Town Hall 2025, and we can't move forward in 2026 until we reflect on what is actually transpired in 2025. So, with that being said, let's dive into what we feel, Traide Masters at least, what we saw in our 2025. Not as a highlight reel, really, but kind of just an honest look back. And when we think about this year, three things really stood out to me. And probably Al as well and probably most traders as well. First, volatility was insane and it tested my discipline and our discipline. It was nuts. There was a lot of days that this year where the market moved extremely quick, unexpectedly, sometimes even violently. It was just out of nowhere, a shock value. And those kind of environments don't just test your strategy. Strategies might not hold up to those things. They test your patience, they test your clarity, they test your structure, and they test your execution all in. Even more important, they test your restraint. They test whether you can sit on your hands when there's nothing to do. And Al, I'm curious.
Yeah,
Correct me.
I call those landmines. Those are times when there's no news announcement, but all of a sudden you get something out of the blue where yeah, just like you step on this landmine and it just kind of blows up things. And sometimes it works in your direction, and sometimes more often than not, the spreads are such that just you lose both directions. So
Yeah,
those are things, and you can't predict it. I mean, they happen. That's all I can say is they happen for no reason. And you can look at the daily news announcements, see, yeah, at 8:30 in the morning is going to be a news announcement, so you try and stay out of that a few minutes before and a few minutes after, let things settle down. But those are things that's the volatility that it does test your discipline. It does test your patience.
What do you think you felt that you saw the most of in Hawkeye traders or even traders in general? Did did you see something different as far as volatility?
No, I mean just about putting what I said is that most of the time they're predictable. But one thing I notice is that, and even if with a lot of other traders, they say don't trade the news. I mean, sometimes it wins, sometimes it loses. It's a 50-50 crapshoot. And the biggest thing that you look at, if you watch a news announcement, you watch the spreads, especially in the foreign exchange market. You watch the spreads, you'll see the spreads are maybe 1 pip, 1 or 2, or maybe a half a pip spread. But as soon as the announcement happens, I've seen as high as 15, 16, 20 pips spread, which means whatever you have, you're going to get stopped out
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah. So I basically summing up, I can see from your scalping and short-term trading, probably most of the people that lost money weren't losing money because they were stupid, but because the environment was constantly pulling into reaction instead of execution. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, kind of tempted to jump in and hope it works out and take more trades and things like that. So to survive this year, the people who did survive weren't the ones who were the fastest. They were probably the ones who were the most selective. Would you agree?
Yeah, selective, and try and stay out of the big volatility. Just try and stay when things are just steadily trending in a rhythmatic types and not in a wild swing type of area.
Yeah, and I think Trade Masters community as a whole does really well in helping our traders trade less, helping them to wait more, and hopefully building a community that values protecting the capital over the sudden squeeze fast move that we sometimes do. And that kind of leads me into the next piece of 2025 is that emotion came in play a lot. And for a lot of our traders that we've surveyed and I've talked to and communicated with on Telegram and emails, it seems to me that emotion was very expensive as well. Not just financially, it could be mentally, relationship. A lot of people in 2025 were, man, it was big swings. I mean, and it could be political, whatever that may be. It just seems like everything is on the edges. There's nothing that's really centered. So as a trader, we hear this all the time. We've been doing this, Al and I've been doing this a long time, and we see it in different ways. But fear made people hesitate and miss great trades. They had to have some other piece of information that aligned up. The stars had to line up. There had to be angels and a bell ring, knowing the angel got the swings in order to take a trade. Fear, and then on the full other spectrum, I have one that came to me not long after Sentinel came out. Greed. Greed made people overstay true winning trades and allowed them to, oh, it's going to only go up. It's going to only go up. It can't come down now. And then only turn those winners into losers. So we had fear and greed. I saw lots of frustration. Heard it in our trading groups. Heard it in our sessions that we have live. Seen it in posts. Frustration and revenge trading was a topic that was big, and that's emotionals that were expensive. And then here's our favorite one. And we talk about making sure our strategies and our trading is boredom and brings boring stuff. But boredom can also be the other side of the spectrum of emotion, where boredom causes you to do what I do and trade when you shouldn't have been trading at all. And that's a lack of execution. That's a lack of clarity. It's a lack of structure. It's a lack of execution. So boredom can also be a play in that as well. We want our systems to be boring. We want our trading to be boring, but we don't want our emotions to be in boredom. Otherwise, we may trade when we shouldn't trade. So, none of that means that anybody was a bad trader. What it simply means, and here is a big moment for you guys. If you experienced any of those emotions, it just simply means that you're a human. And so that's where I'm guessing, Al, you probably saw all that too.
Yeah,
That
I mean most people know what they're supposed to do, and we have systems, we have indicators, we have all kinds of things. But I think the biggest thing is to know who you are, what kind of a trader you are, what your expectations are, and then just to be comfortable with that decision and to stick with it.
Yeah, I agree. And that leads us to our final point on the reflection piece. So we know the volatility was crazy. I anticipate 2026 is going to be the same. Data shows that it's going to be the same, and we'll talk about that. I believe that emotions are probably going to be the same because that's a human nature, and we just got to learn to calm ourselves. But the third thing is the process. Your process matters. This year in 2025, processes the you weren't rewarded for your brilliance. You were rewarded for being consistently boring. And that's kind of what you want. You want that consistently boring thing. It didn't reward people who were occasionally right in a huge way. It rewarded people who repeatedly did this disciplined things, small things over and over and over. So basically 2025 rewarded boring, which people don't, it's not, that's not something you can go online and put on social media post and go viral that, hey guys, come join our community because we're excessively boring. Nobody's going to want that. But the fact of the matter is our community is not boring. Our trading should be. So people with a simple plan followed it, did much better than people with complex ideas and all these crazy things. So again, like I said, today is a day of reflection. And before I jump into the next piece of our session where we're talking about the data, um, I want to ask you to think about which piece of those three kind of hit you hard. Maybe none of them or a little bit of all. For me, it's the emotion. But let that settle in just for a moment because we cannot change what we do not acknowledge. If we don't acknowledge we have a problem, there's no way we can change it. If we keep and or if we substitute somebody else's feelings for our own, somebody else's beliefs for our own, we have to make them our own. And we'll talk about that too, because that's a huge piece. Because that's the big thing going on right now is everybody wants somebody else to trade for them, so they don't have to have the responsibility. We're going to dive into that in a little bit, but one of the things, and we always fall back, and we're not going to hide behind your belief system, your faith system, that always comes into play. And one reason that we're so grateful for this year is God has been patient with us. Again, we've learned how to do things wrong. We have done some dumb things. However, the key part is in spite of the dumb things, Al and I and the core of our leadership team, as well as our community, we hopefully have learned from them. So we're being allowed to see things a little bit more clearly, relying on ourselves instead of and not relying on ourselves instead of the wisdom that we've learned. Uh, we used to be rushing instead of waiting. We used to react instead of good stewardship. Um, so we're stepping back a little bit, and it's not something we can actually take credit for. It's just something we can be thankful that God was patient enough with us to allow us to learn because our brains are amazing things. So I think the reflection's a great piece, but I want to dive into this next slide just a little bit, and then we're going to dive a little bit deeper and specifically into 2025. I told you this is not a sales thing, so this is not what this is about. But I wanted to highlight what's happened within Traide Masters because this is where we're going to move in the future. Okay. I want to be really clear about this first. We didn't build any of this to make your trading more exciting. We built built these systems, these strategy systems to hopefully make trading calmer, clearer, more livable. Uh, we
More
were
deliberate,
watching, what was that?
more deliberate.
More deliberate. We were watching traders struggle. That's a frustrating part. Traders that struggle don't want to be involved in a community. They get negative, and I just we don't like watching traders struggle. And it's not because they didn't struggle because they didn't care, but it was because they were being overwhelmed. We're getting bombarded with stuff. Too many charts, too many indicators, too many opinions, too many decisions all the time. And once you click on a site like Traide Masters, then all of a sudden all your social media bombards you with advertisement on something else that has to do with trading. So you're constantly bombarded with information. So what we're doing is everything we built this year, and I truly believe, and God, and I think Al would agree, I think this was a God thing. Al and I are not programmers. And so we are traders. And we've always been seeking something that would make things easier. And back in June, I had a conversation with Al. I said, Al, put your system on paper. I'm going to try to program it. And he pretty much said, you're not a programmer. How are you going to do this? And so, with some study, some hard work, and a lot of hours,
A lot
um,
of hours.
a lot of hours, uh, we came up with some ideas, and those ideas are growing. And the key is how do we replace and reduce the pressure you guys feel instead of adding more to that pressure? How do we make things more simple for you guys in scope? And the first fruit of that idea, I believe God gave it to us. I'm not saying it's not a holy grail. I'm going to be very clear. It's not a holy grail. The first fruit that came from that was Sentinel. It wasn't what it when we first started. It was messed up. I mean, we had to do a lot of back testing and trying it, and we're still doing some. Um,
It took probably about 3 or 4 months before
mhm.
I would say that, okay, I think now it's starting to work. There was a lot of refinement, a lot of things
Yeah.
that it seemed like it was given initially. We started looking, it was just given the wrong signals at the very wrong time, the exact wrong signal at the wrong time.
Yeah, I would
Uh,
agree. And
so
the piece of that puzzle, Al, is I knew the behinding. I had positive from day one, and he was had to. Al would have to calm me down, and Deb would call me. Oh, this is not working. This is not working. And I'm thinking, oh yes, it does. It works. But I also understood the programming behind it, and so they were looking from a trader's perspective. So it was a huge help to me. So we have Sentinel. And that's a way for traders to see some structure instead of all the chaos. It is not a holy grail. You still have to have context. And then,
what, what,
go ahead.
what? No Holy Grail?
Well, there's no such thing. No such thing. I've asked about it, but there is no.
Yeah.
And maybe
No,
the next
we need to
tool.
put the order in for the Holy Grail.
Yeah, you know what I need to do? The next tool that we develop we just need to call it the Holy Grail
Hmm.
and see how many people will jump into that sucker.
Yeah, there you go.
And from Sentinel in 2025, we decided to come up with Sentinel Strike Zone. Simply, that is an alert system. It's a way to help traders know when something is worth paying attention to and when it isn't. And that's just an alert system. Again, you need context, but it does do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. And then most recently, because I am a swing trader, I've got two different systems I've got going right now. One is still in the works, but TideFusion came out recently, brand new, very, very simple, 4 hour charts only. Higher time frame is daily, and some cool little things inside of it that's going to help swing traders slow down and think in weeks instead of minutes. Because even as a swing trader, we want to break it down in what's happening in a minute. And it's not, this is Tide Fusion is not something to be clever. It's not magical, but it is very, very simplistic and very, very steady. Yeah, I'm excited about releasing that out at the beginning of the year to our swing traders. It's going to be a nice tool, a nice tool. And most likely what we'll do is give our members the first 30, once it comes out, 30 days of usage without cost. Again, not a sales pitch, but just so everybody can see what it's going to do. I think that's fair. But it's going to be slow and steady. So, Al, what do you think?
Well, I think one thing that people need to realize is that all we're doing is we're opening the door, and it's up to everybody here or anybody that listens to this if they want to walk in the door or not. When you walk in the door, there's some things that we have that works. But I think the main thing is that probably the thing that I would say is the closest thing to the Holy Grail that we talked about earlier, jokingly, but there's a lot of truth to it, is the BTE indicator, which has been developed by God, basically.
Yeah.
Is that between the ears indicator? That's your brain and having to be able to get control of that. And what happens is being in a community like this with other traders and other people of like minds, it helps you to develop that BT indicator, which works for you. You tailor to yourself, but we just have some other factors that helps you to create that indicators of about viability.
Yeah, and we're not trying to outsmart the market. We're not trying to outmanage ourselves. We're just trying to not react, not rush, filter some of the noise out, and not chase. I think that's a huge piece. So that's a big part of what made possible this year was the responsibility we put into AI. We've integrated AI not to predict the future because I don't think that's possible, and not even to generate trades, but actually have true data analysis by the AI to find those self-fulfilling prophecies, if you want to call it. Because let's be honest, our systems nowadays are trading against professionals who have a lot of money who don't manually trade. They have a system that does it for them. So their system is also analyzing. So you're finding I'm going to trade the Bollinger Band. When the Bollinger Band, the price hits the top, I'm going to go short. Those are self-fulfilling prophecies. Not that they don't work, but the more people who are manually retail traders like you and I are get into the market, we're competing against algos. So we thought it was very, very important for our systems to include an element of AI that would help us analyze those patterns a little bit quicker, test ideas a little bit more thorough, and remove some of the blind spots that we have as traders because we can't see all things. And just so you guys know, these three things, these are not the only tools that we have, but these are tools. They're not a crutch. They have to be it's allowed us to build thoughtfully and carefully, but it's still a tool. And I don't ever want you guys to say, well, this is going to take all my problems away because it's not,
Yeah, what it does, it really does help us to be more systematic and deliberate, more honest and less emotional about what we do for our trades.
which probably as traders, we probably all could benefit from.
Yeah.
And just quickly, so we're not done. In 2026, I mentioned Pathfinder will come online. It's another layer structure for swing traders, but it's also going to be across different asset classes. So we're tailoring it to also go into stocks, which I love stocks. That's my background. Stocks just don't have the leverage that currency has. So we've also laid the groundwork for 2026 to allow social trading opportunities. And that's where if I'm taking a trade and your account is latched to mine, your trade will be taking as well. It's a way for you to, it's almost automation. We're also considering automation to where you can take something like Sentinel and put it on an MT4 platform and run it the way you want to run, but in an automated format. I'm always scared of that because it has a tendency of removing people from thinking. And that's the opposite that AI should be doing. AI should not stop you from thinking. It should be an asset to you to help you think. Automation should not be a non-thinking trade plan. That's not what it is. So we're going to be very, very careful as we release that out to make sure that our traders understand having social trading or automation does not remove the responsibility of having wisdom and responsibility in your trading. It is not somebody else's responsibility. So here's part of what we want to be very, very clear about that matters. No system fixes a lack of honesty or clarity. It doesn't. No tools fixes a lack of your discipline. No automation is going to fix a lack of your responsibility. These are all support systems, not substitutes for what you're keyed into. So again, we bring back to our three stool thing, clarity, structure, execution. And that goes into a lot of different structures. And you start seeing why we keep saying clarity, structure, and execution. So as we dive in for the next 5 or so minutes, I want to dive into what does 2026 look like? We've already talked about uncertainty is going to remain. We've already talked about the volatility is going to be there. And we've already talked about how discipline is greater than prediction. That is huge. So understand, uncertainty is not going to go away. So if your trading depends on certainty, it's going to keep breaking you. Okay. The goal is to trade with a process that works even when the world situation seems messy. So we're going to hit the three forces now of what's coming in 2026 and probably even beyond. Okay. This is where I love my study. This is where I love to get in. This is what I used to do. I love it's the weirdest thing. It's probably a fetish of some sort where I like to read central bank documents. There's nobody in our trade community that I think enjoys that. I do. I love to know about what's happening with rates, what's happening with inflation, because that is huge. And you may not understand it all. You don't have to. We're going to do our best to keep you with the basics. But understand, rates and inflation is the cost of money. That's the simple part of it. Rates and inflation is the cost of money. Now, I can only spend a little bit of time on this, So I want to be very, very careful. I will do an in-depth. If y'all want an in-depth on rates and inflation and the impact of it on a global economy, let me know. I'll put a video together. But this is just background music for every market. Okay. It plays in the background. When rates are very high, or what they might call sticky, it changes everything. Okay. So does it when it's low. Okay. But let's talk about the high side. It determines how companies can borrow. It determines how you as a consumer can spend. It impacts how valuations are going to behave. It impacts how risk assets, and that's what we're talking about, move. So the big point for traders going into 2026, it's not rates being up or rates being down, and that's important. It's this: the market is going to be hypersensitive to inflation prints, central bank language, and growth scares. And that those three things are what creates that whip on a daily chart, or even on a 4 hour chart, or even in the lowest 15 to 5 minute charts. It's that hypersensitivity. So as we move forward, I'm always going to be asking questions to you to consider. Do you trade better when things are smooth or when things are moving fast? Because the environment decides whether you should be more aggressive or more selective. The environment will decide whether, and your personality, whether you should be a swing trader or a day trader. If you took an analysis of myself and I took a trader personality quiz, which I have, I am naturally a swing trader. I have learned to day trade. I think Al is a natural day trader and he
Yeah.
can swing trade.
Yeah, and for day trading especially, though, the faster markets, they'll tend to punish your ego.
Yeah,
You either have rules or the market writes rules for you. So, and yeah, I mean, I'm more of a day trader or a yeah.
yeah,
And when I say day trader, I'm not talking about scalping. I'm talking about getting one or two good trades every day. You see the one run, you're in the market during the time when it's the most lucrative and when it's most stable,
yeah.
and that's when you take your trades, and then you just let the rest of the day happen by itself and just move on.
And I've seen you take trades that last 2 days.
Not very often.
Not often, but if the picture doesn't change, he doesn't change much. And
Yeah.
so he's still a day trader, but even though when they get extended, but it's not often. So you have to know who you are. So rates and inflation are going to is the cost of money. And so you need to know, can you handle the chaos or do you like things more smoothly? Because that does determine a lot of how you trade. The second piece of this force in our macro picture is policy and geopolitics. I've even written a book on the geopolitical impact on global economies. So I want to touch basically on this. This is where this piece right here is where our surprise come from. This is the shock. This is, and I put that at the bottom of our screen there. It says rules and shocks. It's the geopolitical and policies where the shock comes in. We live in a world where headlines can move markets now. People trade policies, tariff language, my goodness. Supply chain disruptions. Who would have ever heard that when I was a kid? No one ever knew what that was. War risk. Every day we hear about war. Energy shocks. Now we're talking, especially in the United States, things that happen with energy up and down. Election year politics. All the things shift. We saw when Biden was losing and Trump was, all of a sudden we had a shift in certain stock in the stock market because they knew it would be supportive of Trump. So all of it, all of these things are major pieces of the puzzle. This point is not to be careful. The point is not to become a news addict. We have a lot of those. They watch news 24/7. They wake up, and the noise. And I tell my kids in fourth grade, don't watch the news, just trade. And they're successful in their stock trading at 9 years old. Why? Because they don't have news in their head. I'm not saying be ignorant of the news, just don't be an addict to it. The point is just to understand that the macro shocks will change the volatility, and those macro shocks can change the correlations that we're so used to seeing. This is also where we want to stay very humble. We don't want to control geopolitics. We don't want to control government decision. We can control ourselves. We can control our exposure. We can control our position sizing. We can control our decision making. So, as a trader, the question you should be asking yourself here is When the headlines hits, do you feel that urge to do something, even when you don't have an edge? And hopefully your answer is no. And it should be very clear. Okay. And we go back to stewardship because when those things hit, and you see it more in the stock market when people get this, hey, so and so said, here's a stock pick. And we get the headlines just hit that this stock is a no-brainer. That's when we get the urge to do something, even when the picture tells us not to. We're buying high and selling low. And we talk about that a lot. But stewardship in this case means you don't have to participate in every move that's out there. You need to only participate in the moves that fit your plan. That goes back to clarity, structure, and execution. For credible macro risk framing, we talk about trade fragmentation, we talk about tariffs, we talk about those shocks. The IMF, which is, if you don't know what IMF is, the International Monetary Fund, their risk language says something like this. I put this down in my notes. Major global institutions continue to flag fragmentation and policy shocks as a key risk. Now, the everyday person is going to go, what does that mean? So let me put it I'm going to repeat it one time in their language because they kind of put it in a language that only money people would understand. Major global institutions continue to flag fragmentation, that's a big word, and policy shocks as key risks. In plain English, that just means this: the world is becoming more divided. Nobody wants to be friends with anybody. Countries are bartering against each other instead of working together. Political decisions are more likely to suddenly change and disrupt the markets. That's what that means. So we don't anticipate fragmentation. We don't feel that the global economies are going to come together. It doesn't seem to appear to be that way. They're even telling global fragmentation. And that makes our systems, our investment and trading systems, more fragile and unpredictable. And here's the simple piece of that. If you know that the global economy is less stable, more political, and more vulnerable to sudden changes than it used to be, then you need to have clarity. You need to have a structure and you need to have a plan of execution. That's all it means. Don't put drama to it. There's no prediction. There's no fear, just clarity inside of chaos. And let me quickly hit the last one of our three as we move forward. Liquidity. You need to understand liquidity and risk appetite. This goes back to you. In plain English, when the markets feel safe, money flows into it. Okay, when the markets feel safe, money flows into what they call flows into risk because risk brings reward when it's safe. When markets feel nervous, then you'll find the money hiding somewhere. That could be in staples like gold, silver, and things like that. When you see that happen, that's knowing liquidity and risk appetite. This is why you can see weird behavior from time to time. Sometimes good news doesn't move the market up at all. Good news tends to make it go down sometimes. It's really weird. Or bad news doesn't drop them. Market goes up because it's positioning and liquidity. That's what's mattering at that point. Al, anything else there?
No, that's pretty much it. This is where traders get trapped and yeah, they think it's logical. Times it just flows, and basically, just again, like you said, try to find that clarity in the chaos, and no, that's about all I have to say about that.
I agree. So let's go into our numbers, and got about 15 minutes here where we're gonna really kind of fly through again questions in the chat box. We want to address them, but we're really gonna fly through this piece because we've all seen this stuff. So just to give us a little grounding of what happened in 2025 and the key is actually knowing, did we see what happened? How did the New York Stock Exchange Composite actually get 32%? There was a time where it was not 32%, but none of us remember how it moved up and down. So by most definitions, overall the markets were good. I mean, I'm intrigued by the Bitcoin number because we all were into Bitcoin. I still am. Still, that's to me ahead. But we were all into Bitcoin thinking, hey, it's going up in 2026. It's time. And we're all going to become millionaires on Bitcoin.
Well, and it did go up.
It's slowly going up. Stocks were broadly up. And there were real opportunities in the stock market. Back in May, I gave Al some good stock picks to look for the 3 to 6 month window. He took advantage of. So there was real movement there. And I think we're going to be doing that quite a bit too, where we meet once every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and talk about stock picks for our members. I think that's going to be valuable to them because that can be done in a portfolio.
Well, I think
Uh,
that's also Brian. Let's keep in mind that we do have Pierre Tellis in the room here, who's one of our coaches, and he does a Tuesday session, and is really quite good. And I'd urge everybody to pay a little bit more attention to what Pierre does, because he's focusing on stocks and futures and ETFs and things like
yep,
that, which are
broader scope.
and we've been talking mostly about Forex here, but we do have an element of the stocks and futures that we do have, and
He's our
Pierre does
guru.
a really good job with that. I
He's
just
our
want to put up,
guru.
let them know, people know about that.
So just to understand, basically what this screen tells us is that there was some opportunity. This slide's important because this slide right here, it removes any excuses from traders. If the market was moving up, but your account wasn't, the issue wasn't the market. Okay. I want you to think about that. If I'm showing you just general market stuff and it's moving up, then and your account was not, it wasn't the market. Now I'll tell Al, since, and we were talking about this yesterday as we were preparing for today, my fourth graders started a competition in September. They are up, and I would say most of their stuff is in the S&P and NASDAQ. Their portfolios are, now there's a few teams on mine that are low, but I have two or three teams in the top 50, all between 15% and 45% return in 3 months. Not
And how
annualized.
and how those fourth graders fit with their competitors, and who are their competitors?
Their competitors are high school students that pay attention to news, that don't pay attention to technicals the way that they probably should. They don't pay attention to macro. I tell my kids very simply, who's your president? What do you think he loves? That's what I told them. Now, I started by showing them a little bit, but if now I have not showed them how to protect their profits because we haven't had enough time. If I were them, I would be moving a stop somewhere at this point because if you're sitting on anywhere from 15 to 30% in a quarter, you don't want to lose it the next quarter because that can happen, as we've talked about recently in our presentation, macro shocks, and I would hate to have them lose, but it can be done. So this is not to be an accusation on your trading at all. It's just truly an invitation to you to think and consider some things. Um, I'm gonna jump into our nugget as we go forward to make things a little bit quicker. So write this down. Markets don't reward your optimism. Markets reward your alignment. I would say that Al is one of the nicest, kindest people I have ever met in my whole entire life. And I've been around a lot of people. He is not rewarded because he's very optimistic about the market. Matter of fact, I'm not even optimistic about the market. I don't really care if it goes up or down. I can make money on the downside. I have one team in fourth grade that's making money on the downside. They picked a great stock to do it to, and they've made money when everybody else is losing. So it always comes back down to Al's alignment, yeah, or my alignment. And I mean alignment between what the market environment is, alignment between your behavior, alignment between what you say you value and what you actually do. Talk is cheap is another way. I say I do say as I do, not as I do as I say, not as I do. That doesn't show alignment. But your alignment, again, goes back to those three pillars: clarity, structure, and execution. Your alignment between your plan and that execution. You have to be there. So if we look back and realize we weren't aligned in 2025, that is not a failure. That's information we can use to be better. Okay. It means well, it should mean that you learn something about yourself, learn something about your plan, and that it's actually far more valuable to know this than have a lucky year. You can have a lucky year and think you've solved the problem. So just remember, it's far more value to have that plan that aligns. So tying it back to stewardship, we come back to that often a lot here. We're not here to conquer the market. We're basically here to steward our decisions inside of the market, which means taking the responsibility not just for our wins, but also for our patterns and losses. So, as we get ready to slide into our final moments of today's session, I want to talk about the things that we can do to quickly do to change you in 2026, change me in 2026. It comes down to this. Take a screenshot of this. This will be your reminder of everything for. Put it as your backdrop on your wallpaper. This is everything. It brings it down to this. We've analyzed what we've done in 2025. We've talked about clarity, structure, and execution. But here's the key to having all that. You have to reduce the noise. You have to define your risk before ever going in. And you have to practice this every week. You have to analyze yourself every week. And Al, when we look at traders who actually make it through environments like we've experienced, where do you see most people stumble?
Honestly, the noise part, people
Mhm.
consume way more information than they can process or execute. And they watch more than they trade. They switch more than they commit uh, and it feels productive, but it actually creates confusion. So instead of building the clarity, they keep replacing it. And one thing to know too is that if you're if you're trading and you're looking, now you can trade. I encourage people to trade in a demos platform for a while, but
Yeah.
just keep in mind that you cannot even buy a cup of coffee with $1,000 of demo money. So get used to it. Actually practice with it, but don't be afraid to go and to commit a certain there's a percentage. It could be a small percentage of your portfolio, but not be afraid that if you have a risk 1% of whatever number you want to use as a 1%, uh, do that. So at least you can feel like you're actually doing something productive and be able to at least buy that cup of coffee or pay for that uh, uh, whatever.
Yeah. Jump out of the boat is
Whatever.
what you're saying. Get out of the boat and do something.
Yeah, you got to get out of the boat and into the water at some point in time.
So when we say reduce noise, that just simply means that our tendencies, especially in the trading culture, is borrowing from other people. So we're going to encourage you this year, one piece of the puzzle that to reduce the noise, stop borrowing convictions from other people. Borrowing their ideas is great. And we do it all the time. Borrowing their confidence, though, is extremely dangerous. It also removes that responsibility you have inside of trading. So clarity grows when you choose fewer inputs. Again, we're going back to clarity. Choose fewer inputs this year and then live with those inputs that you choose longer than you did in 2025. So, second thing we want to hit is we've talked about reducing the noise. We've identified one thing we can do. Second is define your risk. I'm preaching this all the time. People want to have an alert system and they want me to tell them everything. You have to define your own risk. If your risk changes with your mood, your results are going to change too. And I get on Al for this as well. If you feel great, then all of a sudden you size up your risk and then you feel scared and then you size down your risk. That's not a strategy. That's a mirror of your emotions, and that's extremely dangerous. Al, you
Yeah, all the
see this,
time.
you see it all the
Most
time, don't you?
most traders don't blow up on bad ideas; they blow up on oversized good ideas.
Yeah.
And they're right, but they're too big, or it's wrong, or they're still too big. Defined risk is what keeps you in the game long enough for the skills to matter.
Yeah, I agree. That's defined risk is how you practice your stewardship too, instead of just gambling. And here's our last one as we quickly move through. The third one is execute weekly. What I simply mean by that, not hourly, not impulsively. Now, that doesn't mean you can't analyze your and execute a weekly review on a trade that you had in a day trade. That doesn't mean that. It means you're not being impulsive about it. It's not whenever your emotions are spiked. Your weekly rhythm or routine creates breathing room. I do the same thing all the time. I have a strict routine. It turns into a practice instead of a reflex. It becomes so what I am and who I am. Would you agree, Al?
I agree.
Cool. And we got to make it feel boring, don't we?
Yeah, boring and deliberate.
Yeah, and the key thing is people that are successful, they plan ahead. And they trade less than people who react. Therefore, they survive and therefore they grow. And growing means compounding, and compounding is a key thing. So, surviving is a very important word. So, if you don't survive, you can't compound. So, because you can't compound what you don't protect,
Live
okay?
to trade another day.
Live to trade another day. And so, here's something I want you to put as a theme for this year of 2026. My job, put it in your terms. My job is not to be right. My job is to be consistent. We say that, and I think we sometimes believe it, but then our emotions kick in and we really lean to we got to be right. And that leads to all sorts of problems. But put as a goal in 2026, my job is not to be right. I have it pinned up on my wall. After I saw this, we were talking yesterday, I pinned a little sticky right there on my wall. My job is not to be right. My job is to be consistent. That's with anything, though. Okay. So I know that I'm curious at this point, and I know which one that I struggle with personally. I know it's probably the noise, but I definitely want to hear from the people in the chat. We've been real quiet in the chat room today. Put in there, which one do you struggle with? Is it the noise? Is it the risk? Or is it just really your rhythm, your routine? Put it in there. We've got people in the room. Put risk, noise, or routine. Put one of those in there. I would love to hear it because I already know what mine is. Mine is probably going to lean more to the execute routine. There you go.
Yeah.
Mine leans to the routine as well. I get so confident in what I do all the time that I don't the noise doesn't bother me anymore. And that's a cool thing. There's another routine. Yeah, and okay, consistency goes with that. Yeah. We hear that a lot, Al, consistency.
Yeah. Yeah. Being consistent.
And part of that comes with accountability. Part of that's having your own written trade plan, getting it so boring. So here's what we're going to go into next. This is a transition. I want to go, the answers are exactly what I figured. It's not abnormal. It's very predictable. And that's kind of why we do the analysis inside Traide Masters regularly. We kind of do that, not to sound smart, but uh, because the context protects execution. So now with the context in mind, let's go back down to earth and talk a little bit about what 2025 taught us. You've already seen the slide, so I'm going to just kind of go into this thing right here. Three buckets. This is why you're in the room. Let's just wipe away and get clarity here. You're not in here to hear about systems and what the market did in 2025. If you want to be honest, it's one of these three buckets. And if you agree with that, put a Y in the chat box that you're probably here, or an N if you're not here for that. Why am I losing? Why do I sabotage myself? Even though we don't think we do. And what should I do weekly? So, this is the part of our day that matters the most. I'm going a little longer than I want, but I am going to, uh, I think this is where the rubber meets the road. Okay. It's not what we say, but it's what we wrestle with. And we're going to keep questions inside of our three buckets. These are three buckets we're talking about. And there's no embarrassing questions here. So I want you to be honest with yourself. If you're thinking it, most likely somebody else is thinking it too. You're not here to impress us. You don't even have to spell correctly. You don't have to sound smart. You just have to be honest with us. Let's start by just by touching each bucket briefly and tell you, not with answers, but with context. So bucket one, why am I losing? So most traders assume they're losing because they haven't found the right strategy or they haven't found the right indicator. Could be part of the truth, but that's not what our experience is. I would tell you from doing this over a decade and talking to hundreds and hundreds of people, most traders are losing because one of three things. They're trading something that doesn't fit their personality, something that doesn't fit their time, and something that doesn't fit their account size. That's number one. Number two, they're trading too often. We talked about FOMO, fear of missing out. If you don't know what FOMO is, they're afraid to trade at all. Or they're waiting for nirvana to happen before they take a step towards a community, a strategy, or anything like that. They've been burned, so they don't have trust. Or they're risking too much relative to their personal emotional, and personal risk tolerance. That's why people lose. Those three things are why people lose. Could it be strategy? Possibly. But like Al said earlier, it's not the ideas that are bad. It's their behavior that doesn't match their strategy. They can't stick to a plan. They can't stick to a regimen. And that's why we've created these tools. It helps remove some of the noise. Um, Al, what do you think?
Yeah, and a big one in the time horizon. People trade a 5 minute chart with a monthly mindset or
Yeah.
a monthly system with the 5 minute emotions. It's got to match the time frame that you're trading.
And just so you guys know, there is a survey. I'll find it if y'all are interested in it. That can help match you up with what kind of trader you are. I think that's helpful. If you're honest with the survey, it tells you what you should be doing. So the real question isn't why I'm losing. Okay. That's the question that we always obviously go to. But the real question is where am I misaligned? So as a trader, where am I misaligned? It's not why I'm losing. Okay. That's the question that comes out our mouth. And that's the question we say to ourselves, but it's really where am I misaligned at? Do you feel like your losses come from bad ideas? I don't think so. Do you think if you're a Traide Masters member, it's not for lack of information, for sure, because we're constantly giving you data backed information. Is it from bad timing? And we talked about, I see Clark put consistency in there and I see routine. And I want you to put your thoughts on paper. Uh, put it in the chat box. What is it? Where are you misaligned? Okay. You cannot step forward into 2026 without actually contemplating these questions, not repeat what you did in 2025. Now, if you beat the market strongly, don't change anything unless you did it luckily. But if you struggle, then you need to ask yourself this question. That's bucket one. Why am I losing? Bucket number two is why do I sabotage myself? We don't think about this, but I wrote a book about this. It's a poverty mindset. I wrote a book about poverty mindset, and that really has to do with a lot of faith-based people because a lot of times our faith taught us that we should be poor and humble. That's not what it's teaching us. I mean, that's not it at all. So that mindset comes into play. So this one's very uncomfortable, but it's the most honest of the questions because why am I losing is where am I misaligned? That's easily fixable. But where you sabotage yourself is a poverty mindset. Most traders don't self-sabotage because they're broken. They sabotage because trading exposes us to the uncertainty, and our brains are wired to seek certainty. Okay. We expose to uncertainty, but we want to be confident, certain, control. We want that control. We need to feel relief. So here's what we do to self-sabotage. We chase, we overtrade, we revenge trade, we hesitate, we quit too early, we stay too long, not because we're foolish, but because we're human. So honestly, self-sabotage is just what happens when emotions are louder than the structure. We talked about clarity, structure, and execution. This is
Yeah,
self-sabotage.
yeah, and the market is basically a machine designed to trigger emotions,
Yes, it is.
uh, urgency, fear, greed, regret, all of it, and you need to understand this. This does change everything.
It does.
And there was a years back. Remember we had this book called "Get Rid of Your Head Trash," and it does change. It does give you an idea that you do have a lot of trash in your head that you got to get rid of if you're going to be a successful trader.
Yeah. And it revolutionized a few people because you have to get rid. It goes back to that noise piece again. And you
Yeah.
mentioned that noise part. So we want to make sure that when we look back, when you look back at your worst trades, that's what you want to do. Were they logical or were they emotional? And then do you tend to act more from fear or greed? You need to know that. Mine is greed. There's no doubt. I have no fear. I'm still a lion trader. I have no fear. None fear. And I probably should have a little bit more because we are taught to be balanced. Everything should be in balance. And I'm not. I'm heavy on the greed side. What emotions show up when you break your rules? If there's no emotion when you knew you broke your rules, the rules aren't embedded in your heart and mind then. Okay. They're not embedded. So I see Dad put a link to getting head about the book in the chat box. Thank you very much. That was one of our traders who read that book. And so make sure you're any kind of questions in chat, definitely use that chat box. Okay. So let's go to bucket three. And this is the one that grounds everything. This is foundational step one. It's the most boring, but if we strip trading down to its healthiest form, it would look like this. We would review what happened and we would make sure we learned one thing. Whatever we learned, we would adjust one thing if we saw it needed to be adjusted. And then once we adjusted, we'd execute that plan and we would do it over and over until it becomes so simple and boring. And that's it. That's trading. What do you do weekly? That's it. Review what happened, learn one thing from it, adjust that thing. That may not be your strategy. That may be how you reacted to your strategy, and then execute on that change. Al, your thoughts on that piece of the puzzle?
No, you pretty much covered it there, Brian.
Okay, most people overcomplicate it. They think they need more charts, they need more tools, they need more opinions, they need more information, and what they actually need is actually a set of rules. So consistency will always beat your intensity every time. Uh, and I was asked this question in Telegram yesterday, how many swing trades should I take before I adjust my strategy? That's a personal choice, but I'll tell you what I do. I will take the strategy, follow it through with 50 trades under my belt. I like to have a back test of 100 trades, just a back test, but real live trades, 50. So I back test 100, 50 live trades, and then I analyze those 50 and say, okay, what can I do to change it? Or do I need to change it? Before I make any small adjustment to the strategy, because usually it's not the strategy that's wrong. Okay. Anything less than that is not a good sample size either. So if I change it less than that, I find myself all I'm doing is chasing and seeking and getting that emotional, that dopamine, getting that high. So after 200 trades is my next place. And that's also the place that either I make an adjustment minor or I scrap the whole strategy. And yes, I have scrapped strategies before. After 200 trades, you can tell when it's just not one that's going to work. So that plan keeps having that plan in place keeps me from chasing or running away too quickly from a strategy. So make sure you're running it. Now we're going to go into a Q&A. We've hit the losing part, the sabotage. I think we nailed it in here. Now we're going to build your plan. You came in today wanting to have a plan for 2026. I told you it wasn't going to be a sales pitch, and it's not going to be a sales pitch. Things you can walk away with that actually will help you move forward. We're not going to build a whole trade plan. Maybe we need to do a session on building a trade plan, but these are highly personal, but we can take small steps today. So those are the lenses we're going to be working through: alignment, emotion, and rhythm. Those are the buckets that we talked about. Now we want to make sure that we hear from you guys. And I know you guys have already been somewhat quiet. And I appreciate it. I'm looking in the YouTube channel now. Okay, I've got one question over there with a good group over there, by the way. If you have any questions, make sure you put them out there in the chat box because most likely somebody had the same question you have, or they struggle with something similar. So let me get started with absolute question. Number one question asked and searched that we get constant. What should I trade right now? So if you pay attention and really pay attention to that question, that's not really the question they're asking. They think it is what trade, and I'm sure you guys in the room have asked that same, what should I trade right now? That is not really what you're asking. What you're really asking, if you think about clarity, structure, and execution, you're asking, can somebody please tell me with certainty what's out there that I need to be investing and trading in?
And one
It's
thing
not,
it shows up disguised is what are you
yeah,
watching this week? What's your
yeah,
best setup right now? What is it a buy or a sell? What stock, coin are you in? What's the safest trade? And the adult version of that same question is the more developed traders because it becomes what you enter, exit, the right plan for this environment, and so
yeah.
on.
It's definitely that. But don't you agree, Al, that when they ask what should I trade, they're not really asking that?
What is the better question? What conditions do I trade in is best? What are my
Yeah,
plans, risk? What are the conditions? How the conditions show up? Um, it's uh, I don't know.
you're right. But I think we shouldn't start by asking what to trade. I think our trade put down, I would say, better, more important is under what conditions do I trade well? And so, again, we talked about this yesterday, Al. We talked about we could be sitting in front of the same chart looking at the same asset. and your results are different than mine.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And I
We
think
could be trading side by side and get different
side by
results.
side. And people don't want that. Again, they're not asking what to trade. They're asking, can someone give me a guarantee? Can somebody give me certainty? So you really don't need to be asking that question, okay? Because at Trade Masters, we don't believe in there's a best asset. They're all the same. We believe best setup, there's not really even a best setup for everyone. We believe that a setup is a setup that fits the individual, period. Some do well with fast decisions. That's not me. That's short trading. That's Al. That's short term trading. That's Al. Some do better with slow swing trading. My time allows me to be a swing trader. Some people need very, very simple. So the approach should not be what should we trade now? It should be asking what conditions do I trade in? You need to know that clarity again. We as trade masters, our goal is to help you kind of discover that. You'll know where you after a bit of time, you'll know where you best perform, and then you can start building around that because a great strategy in the wrong hands is always going to fail, and a very, very simple strategy in the right hands can compound more than you can even imagine. So instead of asking what should I trade, because that is the number one question, we really need to ask ourselves, what trader am I? What kind of trader am I? And so the environment, what best environment? That's finding that clarity. And Al made some great points in that. But the simple questions that most everyone asks and breaking it down, break those things down. Okay. And I know I don't see any chat questions quite yet, but here's another one that seems to pop up regularly. And this is the one that was in the YouTube channel. How much should I risk? We get that question a lot. My gosh, there's no way for us to know that answer, by the way. We don't know what the size account is. We don't know what your risk tolerance is. We don't. I can tell you that I never risk more than 4% on any one trade. I know the beginners probably should risk a 0.5% to 1%, but that's really not the question that I believe is being asked. I believe when somebody asks me how much should I, and I could be wrong, let me know if I'm wrong, how much should I risk? I would break it down like this differently. How do I not lose? That's what I think they're asking me. How much should I risk? How do I not lose? And that's really, it shows up another way. I mean, the same question, how big should my position be? Again, it goes back to feeling of loss, the fear of loss. Um, Better questions. There are better questions to this. So while number one, kind of the question kind of gave us direction, this one, the question, how much should I risk, is talking about survival. Okay. I would just give you a simple answer to that question. You should risk the amount that lets you think clearly, sleep peacefully,
Sleep at night.
calmly,
Absolutely.
and
Yep.
and stay consistent. If you're worried about your trade losing money when you're trying to sleep, you will not sleep well. Then you'll come back online and you'll make bad decisions. So this is not, don't risk an amount that makes you feel excited. Don't risk an amount that promises you fast growth. Don't risk an amount that makes you feel impressive when you tell your friends. You need to find a stable, consistent amount that makes sense to you. Because the fact of the matter, you don't lose because you're wrong. You lose because you're too big when you're wrong, just like Al said earlier. So at Trade Masters, again, we try to focus on defined, predefined risk, and I'll show you that in Sentinel. We have a predefined. You don't have to use it, but it's there. Risk that stays the same whether you feel confident or afraid. Risk that protects your ability to keep showing up for the next trade. Because remember, your first job is not to make money. We say this a lot, but nobody ever listens to it. Your job is not to first make money. It's to stay in the game long enough to grow and compound skillfully. And that's that structure part. We talk about clarity, structure, and execution. So,
Yeah. No,
Al, you want to take this next question now?
no, here's another question that came in this morning with someone over via the Telegram. Can I actually trust this, the system, your tools, the community, or even myself? This is a pretty vulnerable question, one that many are afraid to ask, but it's true. I mean,
Yes.
what makes us so special? Nothing really, other than the fact that we have an open door that allows people to come in and have a community. We have some tools that seem to work for us, and we try and teach people how to use them. We don't give market advice. We don't. We take trades. But we are human. We do make mistakes. But I think what's really important is that this is a community that helps everybody have someone to uh, engage with. I think it's important, and to get comfortable with us. It's not it's not a big expense to get involved with us.
Thanks, Jonathan, for the compliment. I agree. I think again, when people ask this kind of question, they're really not asking that. They're in simple terms, out. They're asking, does this actually work?
Yeah.
Is this legit? I mean, we're pounded. Is this system actually legit? Is this community actually legit? Or is this just another thing? Another question that comes from this, how long will it be before I see results? Again, that's not
It
predictable.
depends
What
on
kind
you.
of returns can you guarantee? I hear that a lot. That's the same question. How can I trust this system and tools and things like that? So again, this question number three is not technical. The other two are a little bit more technical. This one's actually more about not about the charts. You'd think it would be. It's not about setups or indicators or the mechanics. It's really, to me, when I hear that kind of question, it's whether the person who's asking the question, and we'll respond to them because they couldn't make today. I know who sent this. Whether a person feels safe enough to commit to something, whether that be to a community, to an add-on tool, or an annual membership, or buy a book or buy a video. This is an emotional piece. So the simple answer to this is a trust question, and trust isn't something we can ask for. Clark, we'll make sure you get the following as well. Thank you for being here. And we're almost finished, guys. We're running up on our clock. It's
Yeah, we
something
need to
we
be
earn
wrapping
through
it up.
yeah, we're getting ready to wrap it up. But we do offer Trade Masters offers some framework like Al mentioned. We take our language very, very, very carefully. So we believe trust grows when the people are treated with dignity, not as leads and targets and clients and things. So our answer to that question, can I trust this? Don't trust us blindly. That's what I would say. Don't trust us blindly. I would say walk with us, observe with us, communicate with us, test the process, see if it provides that clarity that we're talking about, see if it provides the structure and discipline that you're talking about, see if it is consistent for you. And that's the execution piece. So, in one sentence, I'll give you just a brief look at this. Trade masters don't help you chase profits. We don't do that. We help people build themselves into the kind of traders who can handle the profits when they do come. And that's what makes it sustainable, and that's what makes it honest. So let me quickly move over because I do not want to belabor the point. I do want to go into um, a question. I want to make sure I've got one question that was sent earlier. Um, I'm going to skip that question. I think we've kind of hit it through the whole thing. And just remember this, guys, rules. For some reason, people avoid rules. I guess it does remove the personal responsibility. They're not complicated. Just make a plan that says plan that's protective. So I only trade when X is true, or I stop trading when Y happens. I never risk more than blank. If I break this rule, I step away. Those are simple things. Rules aren't there to punish you. They're just there to give you a permission to relax a bit. So let me go quickly into our last few slides, an invitation. And I told you this is not going to be any sort of sales piece at all. Okay, just opportunity. So before we open and keep continuing with your questions, definitely keep your questions coming. I'm gonna keep an eye on the YouTube channel as well. So y'all are lagging about 10 seconds behind, so it's not a big deal. If what we've talked about today resonates with you with the clarity, structure, and the execution part, just know that we'd like to walk beside you in that journey. We've been doing it for a lot of times. It's not because we think we have all the answers, because we don't. It's not because we have a holy grail, because we don't. Um, but most people don't change by themselves. They need to change with having some accountability, a process, people around them that are doing the same thing they're doing, but hold them to an account. So we built Trade Masters for the traders who want to be disciplined and have discipline over that dopamine high. We don't want tire kickers. We don't, and we even have an application process. So it's not that we accept everybody and anybody, but we are looking for people who are tired of drifting, tired of just reacting, but they're ready to be consistent. And I just know inside this committee, we focus a lot on the real-time learning. And we don't put enough weight on that, I don't believe. Real time visual, see us in a live environment, trading the charts, trading the asset. You'll see how we think, how we manage risk, how we personally plan, how we review, how we see the real charts. It's not just highlight reels. We're not going to pick and choose a particular trade and say, hey, look, we got this. We try to do this with as much humility as possible. As I mentioned before, God has blessed us. We have no complaints. We have no right to complain. And we don't take that lightly. We're not here to impress anybody. We're not going to post up our brand new cars. We're not going to post pictures of our house. We're not going to post pictures of our yachts. We're not going to do all that nonsense. And here's the key. We're not asking you to join a group. We're just inviting you to practice with us, a way of showing up every week with clarity, structure, and execution. So the question goes back to you guys. Do you want another year of information or do you want to step forward and move forward? Do you need more ideas? Do you need a better execution? And if that's the case, we'd like to help. And so I'm going to do this very, very carefully because I said we're not promoting anything. This is something that Al and I came to the other day. We talked about it and we both agreed that we are getting ready to go to $199 on January 1st. And we had quite a few people. We have over 4,000 people in an email list. And so we have a lot of people who are going to be watching this after the fact. Um, but I want to share this with you guys. Before we wrap it up, one simple option. You can take it or not, no pressure at all. But back in February, when we started Traide Masters in a membership role, we had an introductory offer of $99 for a year. We knew that that was extremely affordable. That's less than, I think it's like a cup of
Two
coffee.
dollars a week, less than $2 a week.
Yeah, it's a cup of coffee. It's ridiculous, but it does put some skin in the game. So we're going to open that back up from today. As soon as this session is over, and we're going to extend it to January 3rd. And the first 10 people who respond to support@traidemasters.com, you can take a screenshot if you want. We're going to send you a coupon code that will allow your price to go from 199 to 99, and that will be ongoing. So next year when you're with us, it won't go to 199, it'll still be the 99. You're going to go grandfathered in because that's our gift to you for being in the town hall. I think it's only fair. If you wait and you go past and starting January 1st, we will be going to the 199, which is, I think it's wise to be in the 99 to save the money. That way you have the capital to get inside the room, start trading and making money and not worrying about a monthly. And there's nothing wrong. This is very, very reasonable. We've been told we're crazy and then we're way underpriced. But this offer is going to end January 3rd. That way you can start trading. When I say that, send it to a Traide Masters, support@Traide Masters, and here's what you're going to get. You're going to get a month of everything that we have for a month trial. If you're a new member, you get it all. When the month is over, we're still going to give you Sherlock, one of our institutional tools that comes with your membership. So again, this isn't a pitch. It's just an open door for those who finally found a place and they're ready to move forward. That's it. Um, Take a screenshot if you like. If you have questions about that, definitely ask them. But I want to go and finish up today. This was 90 minutes, which is fantastic presentation overall. Lots of information. We know that. But I know Al and I are both thankful that you all came, took the time out. It shows that you are interested in moving forward in 2026 with information. We have members that are in here, which we appreciate that as well, the support there. We're grateful for you. We are excited about 2026 because it can change. It can change you in an incredible way. Al, do you have anything left to close with?
All I can say is that no, we would obviously we like hundreds of people. We're not looking for hundreds of people. We're
No.
just looking for a handful of real quality people that want to be engaged, want to be in the community, want to interact, and be part of us. We don't need hundreds and hundreds of people. We just want enough people to make it worth our while to be doing this.
And we want to help them.
Yeah.
We've gone through a lot of the hurdles ourselves. So we're going to give it 1 minute. Is there anybody that has questions on either the YouTube channel or the Zoom room right now that we can answer before we get going? Nothing's off limits. You can ask any question that you like. If it's in your brain, most likely somebody is thinking the same thing. We'll just give it a few moments and then we will call it a day. And I'm going to go ahead and put this screen up for you guys. You can take a screenshot of that as well. This will tell you every time, every place you can connect with us. We did have a question about our broker. We like Novus Markets. That link is there. If you can't type it in correctly, just reach out to us at support@trademasters.com and I'll send you the invite link. Uh, uh, and anything there, connect with us. I will say the Telegram channel there. Um, uh, is our general one. It is not our membership one. Definitely follow us on YouTube and Instagram as well. Question, was your holidays good? Been kind? Been kind of out? Yeah, holidays were great. Fast and Furious had a little bit a family issue that I put in our prayer channel. Um, some struggles that my daughter was going through, and so life happens at some of the strangest times. But yeah, holidays are always good. I'm enjoying the week off. I wish there was a trading week. I'm really kind of looking forward to school being out in May so I can be with Al more often. I miss those times. Lots of stuff happens. It seems like lots of stuff happens on spring break and during the summer with Trade Masters because I have a tendency of working 24/7. So great. I hope you guys had a great holiday as well. So make sure you take a screenshot. Again, first 10 people that we get email, we're going to post this also in our Telegram channel as well as I'll give some notes to it. And then I'll also be sending this out as an email. So we'll post this in our YouTube channel for those who want to watch it as well. For the YouTubers, you already know where it's at. So
And we thank everybody for being here, listening to, sticking with us. And for those of you who are going to watch the replay of this, we thank you for taking the time to do that as well.
yeah. All right, everybody. God bless. And thank you guys for being here. And we will see you. Happy New Year. We'll see you at the beginning of the year for a brand new year of trading. God bless everybody. We'll see you soon.
Take care.